Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. In this video today, guys, we're going to be talking about an altcoin that has some serious potential. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. Really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with all that said, done, and out of the way, let's jump on down to the desktop and talk a little bit more detail about why we think this altcoin has so much potential. Okay guys, so we are talking about Chainlink, okay, and I think it's a project that hopefully a lot of people are familiar with. They do some pretty interesting stuff in the space, and actually pretty critical stuff in the space as well. So here we just have coin market cap, just to give you a bit of an overview of the tokenomics and kind of things that are kind of going on here from that kind of top level view. And then we're going to dive down into a little bit more detail and have a look at a few charts, right? So obviously Chainlink today at the point of recording this video is $23.81. And I'll get more into why I think that's actually a really good price to maybe even start to consider some accumulation if you're not yet already involved with Chainlink. And I'll also dive into the charts and give you my thoughts on what I think is going to happen if you want to get in any potentially any lower, or what my outlook is on the kind of longer term plays. Now, here we have an $11 billion market cap. Again, market cap is a rough kind of guide, a way to rank your cryptocurrencies. And what market cap is basically your current price, your last sold price, in this case $23.80, multiplied by your circulating supply, which in this case is 467 million. Chainlink, okay, so multiply those two things together, gets you the market cap. What it doesn't show you is the liquidity or how much money is flowed into Chainlink. It just shows you the simple calculation of last sold price times circulating supply equals market cap, and then you can rank your cryptocurrencies. What it doesn't really do is it doesn't show you value. What it does show you is price, okay? It shows you a ranking of cryptocurrencies based on price, okay? Not based on the current price, but on the total kind of price, if you will, by the circulating supply. So it's an interesting way to kind of rank them, but it's not a way to kind of measure value. That comes separately. Now, if you were to take the entire supply of 1 billion, multiply it by the circulating supply, that would be a $23 billion market cap. Again, really small stuff, right? And you know, this $11 billion market cap is really small for Chainlink. And if we actually come over to this chart here for market cap and we actually review all time here, we can see that the market cap actually reached where are we, up the top here? If I can actually zoom in a bit. I can't. Let me go ahead and zoom on in here so we get that number right at the top. There was market cap was $21.8 billion, and that was back in May, I believe. May, yeah, it would have been up there. That's just fine. So you know, what's really interesting about this is that we have, actually no, it wasn't. That was yeah, that's May. So what we have here is actually a significantly reduced market cap, which actually just represents the fact that the price has pulled back because the circulating supply hasn't changed too much, right? And we're going to get into the charts and take a look at what's going on there in a moment with the price action and why I think this actually has huge potential for 2022. Now, before we do that, I really want to talk about what Chainlink is, right? It's an oracle system that basically brings real-world data on chain in an immutable way, right? And that is not an easy task. And it's really important that we understand the mechanics behind Chainlink is actually relatively complicated, but is absolutely really critical, specifically for things like DeFi and price feeds and all that kind of good stuff. Now, this particular chart here, or this particular Chainlink system page, is showing us all the integrations that Chainlink has. Now, this is something that gets overlooked quite a bit, because Chainlink, you see it all over the place. It's heavily integrated. Pretty much most places you're going to turn over a rock and you're going to see Chainlink almost. And basically here you can obviously take a look that it's got blockchain integrations 89, got compliance with 3, you've got layer 2 solutions have 24 integrations. You can go through all of these categories and really see exactly where things are. But let's just focus in on those ecosystems, right? You obviously have all of these ecosystems that are utilizing Chainlink for their oracles, right? And that doesn't mean that they're only using Chainlink, but it's important that we understand that they are using Chainlink, okay? And you got to think that the transactional volume that Chainlink sees is basically all the queries that are happening with, let's just take into example, DeFi and price feeds. But there are so many more oracles to kind of get your hands on. But basically, you're seeing things like Cardano, which integration I think actually came in September. That partnership, that agreement. You got Polygon, which is obviously Matic. And this list is obviously quite vast, right? You got a whole host, Harmony, 𝗕𝗔𝗓, just to name a few that you may have actually already kind of come up with or familiar with, but the list is quite vast, right? And I think it's important that we understand what they are doing and why this is really important work, and why we think that actually, as this ecosystem that is crypto actually starts to evolve more, the strain and the stress of real world data being pulled on chain is going to increase, and that ultimately will increase the value of the actual link token in itself, right? Because that is going to be utilized to pay for these oracles. So it's important that we understand that we see a growing ecosystem. There are over 1,000 integrations across various different industries within the crypto space utilizing Chainlink so far. And that is absolutely fast, right? And that's going to grow as this ecosystem grows. And we are, of course, going to start to see a lot more kind of transactional volume as these ecosystems that actually use Chainlink start to grow themselves, right? They're going to be more dependent on these oracles as well, right? So Chainlink is positioned incredibly well with a level of integration that it has across the crypto space, and the fact that there's a growing ecosystem as a whole across different blockchains, 89 of them to be exact, and dApps that are building on those chains are likely to pull data from Chainlink as well. So this is absolutely huge, right? And it has huge potential to it. And then, of course, we jump into the charts, right? And if we actually just zoom out into our weekly for a second, and we can actually start to appreciate the kind of momentum that Chainlink has had. And we can argue that we've actually seen from January 2019 a good run up, a pullback with a wave 2 here, and a good move with a wave 3. And again, we measure this distance to confirm this. Of course, we can see here that there's a good move to be had. Well, she kind of topped out at that 4.236, as you can see there, but obviously went past the 1.382, turning this ABC move into an impulsive move as a whole. So we know that this is a 1 through 5. We had the completion of that fifth wave up in May of 2021, and then we started to see the correction, an ABC down, and now we are tracking potentially an A or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We think there was potential here for another impulsive move. It's not yet confirmed. This could be a wave A. We're waiting for completion of this wave B, and if wave C actually turns impulsive on us, then we should be looking pretty good for some interesting kind of price discovery for Chainlink in the future, right? So if I actually just grab this and measure out that distance on here, we are talking about potentially just moving up Chainlink into a key area. Let's just expand that up for a second here. And what we're looking for here is that 1.382. So if we actually move Chainlink in this next leg to the upside over $50.87, which is lower than the previous all-time high in this move, and we don't actually break the wave counts, this could actually turn into an impulsive move that could actually see Chainlink rally up incredibly nicely. Let me actually remove the correct fib off of here because we don't need this one right now. And what does this actually mean? Well, I have a trend-based fib on here, okay, and what that basically means is we're taking a look at the trends of Chainlink, right, that we've seen so far. Let me go on my brush tool. So we have this low point just here, okay, this wave 4 low. We also have this wave 5 high just up here, okay, that was the May high. And then we have this pullback, this ABC correction, taking us down into this lower area. That correction is when Bitcoin was at 65K going down to 28K, right? That ABC correction there. A lot of people were calling that a bear market, and you can argue that, they aren't wrong, but they also aren't right either. I think bear markets in this space have to be categorized slightly differently than what you might see from a traditional financing system. This was a corrective move. It was a pretty heavy one at 75% of the value, which is why you can argue that yes, it could be deemed as a bear market. But when you actually zoom out and you look at the chart, it's not necessarily a bear market, but more of a bearish phase where you have that corrective action. If it was a bear market, this would have actually turned impulsive to the downside, and I would have actually seen this diminish a lot further. We would see a 90% crash, for example. And in the crypto space, when we actually see a bear market, that lasts for a good 18 to 24 months. So what we actually have here is a good correction. That actually then sets us a low point, right? So we have 1, 2, 3 anchor points for our trends. Now, let me just tidy this up a little bit. So specifically what I'm talking about here is this downtrend here, this uptrend, and this downtrend. When we take into consideration all three of those trends, we can use what is called a trend-based Fibonacci extension. And that's what you see here. This is not just a regular Fibonacci retracement tool. This is a trend-based Fibonacci tool. So this actually shows us moving up towards $218. Now, I do imagine that that is the true kind of push within this particular bull cycle on where we would expect Chainlink to kind of go. It's definitely on the upper end of the spectrum. I think there are some more conservative targets that we could potentially be looking at, slightly lower than $218. We don't want to necessarily be holding a bag of Chainlink into the bear market if the bear market does eventually come. We actually want to be potentially, you know, making sure that we sell on the way up, locking in those profits, dollar cost averaging out of the market like we dollar cost averaged into the market. Okay, so this is a bit of a push. I do think it's a bit of a push, but I think there's actually more conservative targets that we could be aiming for. And for that, we actually jump down into our daily chart. Now, this daily chart actually shows us with a 4.236 extension at $182, so slightly lower. But this basically takes into consideration that high that we had back in May and the low area that was actually set down here at the end of July. That whole pullback right there shows us with a Fibonacci extension level of a 4.236 at $182. That is a more conservative target that is less than 10x on the current price. Actually, if it's a lot less than that, because I haven't got my price. Where are we? Here we are. And I just pulled that back up. It's actually 676%. So it's about a 6x, which is very, very comfortable in this particular space, given the market climate as it is. I do think that is something that we are likely to see kind of come in. And again, like I said earlier, we like to dollar cost average out, which means we'll be taking a look at all of these key areas and dollar cost averaging out of Link as we climb up the rankings. Obviously, greed gets the better of you, thinking that we're going to go to those $214 range, for example, and potentially it may never actually come in. We want to make sure that we lock in as many profits as we can on the journey to the upside. We usually do carry a little bit over into the bear market, and if we actually do hit those higher numbers, then we can liquidate those rather than carrying into the bear market. But for the most part, the outlook here for Chainlink is actually looking very, very good, right? Everything from a really small market cap, really small price, good kind of 6 to 7x potential with this particular altcoin. And of course, the ecosystem that's absolutely massive and continues to grow. So overall, I do think Chainlink has some serious potential for 2022. This particular cycle, I think, is where Chainlink really does come into its own. And it's something that we think is going to have some long-term value to it as well. But just like Ethereum, being the first to market in terms of what they are doing doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to stay around forever in terms of a decade from now. Market share will be divvied up across many other Oracle-based systems such as API3 as well as many others. It is important that we acknowledge that Chainlink is heavily integrated with over 1,000 integrations today, this day and age, and where we are in this particular cycle. And as a result of that, I do expect fantastic gains to be made with Chainlink in 2022. Moving further forward into 2025 and 2030, the landscape for Chainlink might be ever so slightly different, but I do expect it to still be one of the front winners when it comes to oracles with blockchain technology. Guys, if you have found this video useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With that said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.